Hello out there. Let's talk about SCIFs and what I think is going on with this leak. I think it's very, very suspicious. There's only one possibility how Jeffrey Goldberg could have possibly received or been on the chat chain, is that if there was a trade representative that had something to do with our trade through that particular port, that where the attacks on the Houthis took place. That is the only possibility that some low-level staffer could have loaded Jeffrey Goldberg's contact to a trade representative into the chat. It kind of doesn't make any sense, but it would have to be either a low-level staffer that loaded the wrong contacts into the wrong chat, or we have a mole. There's one of two things. I am suspicious that there may be a leaker, because why wouldn't we? I expect there to be a leaker. I expect there to be at least one, possibly two leakers, because the last time Trump was in office, it was 76% of them were leaking information. So this time, the chances that, though he's cleaned house and though he's been very, very careful, that somebody got in there. People lie. People recommend other people. People come through other people, even though the people who you hire or you think you can trust, that person, there's a whole chain, might not be able to trust or know the people that they're recommending enough that they aren't working for both sides. Especially when you go to a low-level position where somebody who has not been in government for that long or hasn't worked for that long, if you're very young, you haven't had many jobs, you may be working for both sides, and the people that are hiring you don't know that your whole mission is working for the other side. You're a spy to begin with. Your mission is, you are a Democrat, you hate Trump, you want to bring him down. So every job that you apply to is a job that looks like you are in the GOP, you're pro-Trump, everything you have online is pro-Trump, though you're not really pro-Trump. You know what I mean? You are secretly working for the other side. So therefore, what you're going to do, somehow you're going to leak it, especially to somebody like Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic, who was part and parcel of the Russia collusion hoax. He was making up stories that turned out to be 100% fake about the Russia collusion, just like between the New York Times and the Washington Post, exactly at 7:05 in the evening, after people had ended, news organizations had ended news for the day. Exactly at 7:05 every single day, the New York Times and the Washington Post would trade off each night stories about the Russia collusion thing, about some anonymous source. And you didn't know that the source was anonymous until you read about 13 paragraphs down that the source was anonymous. We have found out that this whole line was a hoax. Everything was fake. He also was the one that spread the suckers and losers story about Trump saying about the war dead that they were suckers and losers. When everyone there, except for one person, there was one person that Trump ended up firing who had a grudge, said that he said suckers and losers, when in fact everyone said what he said was that the people who sent these men to die treated them like suckers and losers. They treated them like that. That's why they were killed and mauled and turned into a meat grinder or put through a meat grinder unnecessarily. They didn't value their lives. So Jeffrey Goldberg took the story from someone who was fired by Trump because it turned out that this man was not loyal to Trump. He was working for the other side. There is no way, there's no way that Trump, I believe that Trump really would have let such a thing happen, that he would have been careless in any way about this chain of command, because he knows about what Hillary did, what Joe Biden did when he was a senator and vice president and got confidential, classified information that he kept in his garage next to a broken down car, and the boxes were open and spilling over, and there were rats running through it. This was a box of classified information that he was not allowed to have in his position as senator. Whereas Trump and the news organizations are comparing this to Trump. When he was president of the United States, and if he takes a piece of paper and just says it's no longer classified, or he decides that it's no longer classified, that he can take it, it is. When he took the information, like letters from Obama, handing the office over to him, signing off, and he gave him a very nice letter. So Trump wanted to keep that. And Kim Jong-un sent him a very nice letter. And he wanted to keep these for sentimental value. Trump, these are trophies for Trump. And as president, yeah, he can unclassify that. Well, Obama took millions of pieces of information that he says he's going to be putting on the web, and he's going to send it back, but he never has. And Bill Clinton had classified information in his sock drawer, which he just took. If it's okay for them. Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, after, what's his face? The FBI Director Comey basically took a half an hour reading the Riot Act of every law that she broke, where she actually had classified information on a server that was in her bathroom in her basement, that she was sending, that was not a .gov email, a server that could definitely be hacked by any country in the world. And the suspicion is that she sent so much information through that she knew it was going to be hacked. That's why she did it that way. While Obama, we have copies of these emails that were sent to Obama. Obama received this information as President Obama. He received this information, classified information, from an email address from a server that was not a .gov server, that was not a secured server. And it's very interesting. I have this, I'll add this, put this here. will play Chuck Schumer. I think it's very interesting what Chuck Schumer is saying. And you sit there and you listen to him and go, oh, I totally agree with this guy. I totally agree what he's saying. Listen to his, so I agree with mostly what he's saying. But then wait a second, I'll tell you something after you hear him talk. I'll tell you something. Let me shut my little thing off and let me add this to the
I ask unanimous consent the quorum be dispensed. Without objection. Earlier today, The Atlantic magazine released a stunning and alarming report about the accidental leaking of the Trump administration's coordination on classified military operations targeting the Houthis in Yemen. According to the report, a member of the press was somehow added to an unsecured text chain with the Vice President, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, the CIA Director, and other national security officials. The text chain was not a secure conversation. The app used is not approved for discussing classified military operations. Nevertheless, on this text chain, conversations went at length about imminent military operations, including specific targets, weapons, and attack plans. These text messages very likely included classified U.S. intelligence. And the entire time, nobody seemed to realize that a private citizen without security clearance had access to this conversation. Mr. President, this is one of the most stunning breaches of military intelligence I have read about in a very, very long time. What we have here are senior U.S. leaders, including the Vice President and Secretary of Defense, having classified discussions of military action over an unsecure app. It's bad enough that a private citizen was added to this chain, but it's far worse that sensitive military information was exchanged on an unauthorized application, especially when that sensitive military information was so important. If these detailed exchanges about coordinating military operations fell into the hands of America's enemies, it could get people killed. It could severely harm our military. It would put America's national security in danger. This debacle requires a full investigation into how this happened, the damage it created, and how we can avoid it in the future. If our nation's military secrets are being peddled around over unsecured text chains, we need to know that at once, and we need to put a stop to it immediately. Every single senator, Republican and Democrat, and independent, must demand accountability. If a government employee shared sensitive military plans like this, they'd be investigated and face very harsh consequences. Again, this kind of carelessness is how people get killed. It's how our enemies can take advantage of us. It's how our national security falls into danger. If you were up in arms over unsecure emails years ago, you should certainly be outraged by this amateurish behavior. I ask that Leader Thune and my Republican colleagues work with Democrats right away to hold a full investigation into why these military operations were coordinated over an unauthorized messaging service instead of the secure communications channels funded by taxpayers. And I want to finish with this. When Pete Hegseth became before the Senate as a nominee, Democrats warned that something like this might happen. These people are clearly not up for the job. We warned confirming them was dangerous, that they'd behave recklessly. Unfortunately, we were right. Now we must have accountability, and both parties in the Senate should investigate how this blunder was even possible. Now, on Donald.
Sorry, a few words about that. The signal chat is authorized by the government, and there are precautions that you can take to make it secure. Now, was it secure? Was it secure, or was this name added to the chat by either a low-level staffer, mix the two up, whereas a trade representative should have gotten the chain, a different chain, and the two chains were mixed up? Or is there a mole? Part of me thinks, well, it could be either of the two. It could be a stupidity, or it could be a mole. And sometimes you just can't weed all the moles out. Now, way back when, a long time ago, one of my first jobs, I was hired at a law office. And I didn't realize they were basically, when you get hired at a law office, you have to know how to keep confidentiality, and to the point where as if you were keeping it classified information for the government. You have to be that honest. So when they hire you, they're hiring you under these conditions. Except I didn't realize when I got hired that I would be working for a general. One of the attorneys was a general. And at the time, he was the head of of military intelligence. It was like a secret military intelligence. People from the Pentagon were coming in and out of the office. I received high-level phone calls from the highest people that you can possibly imagine. We held SCIFs in the office. I know what it takes to secure the perimeter for a SCIF. I understand what goes on, secret, and there was a war going on, by the way. I'm not going to say what war it was. High-level information was being crossed or being exchanged. I was typing up documents. I was making copies of documents. I was being called in and out of the office constantly, to enter the office constantly. I know what an exchange, a high-level exchange for war operations is. And very few YouTubers, content creators on the level that I am, know anything about this. Usually it's somebody with some kind of big fat title. But you have to be, they had to check me out for my honesty and the connections and my family connections. And I happen to have family connections with people family and friends, people who had worked in Washington, were honest people. It came from an honest line of family members that were all checked out. Like, so my aunt worked for the Department of Justice, and she knew John F. Kennedy, the president. And then she also knew Queen Elizabeth, and so on and so forth. So I had people, and then her friends were still working in Washington after she left Washington, who were at high levels working with the presidents, and on both sides of the aisle, family members and friends working on both sides of the aisle. So I was a shoo-in for this particular position because I had a lot of people that would basically say that I was honest and I could be trusted. We know who she is, for this particular position. And I've never divulged the confidentiality of what I was working on any level, though I suppose I could. And people, after they retire from such positions, like generals, they talk about, this is the general that worked on this war, and they let you know certain things after the fact. I've never divulged anything because there were many people on different levels of the military that I spoke about, and I spoke to and dealt with, and I wouldn't want to divulge anything to get anybody in trouble in any way, shape, or form. So I'm speaking from experience. This particular chat is a text message chat. And it's almost laughable because it's either some kind of low-level stupidity that exchanged, kind of interwoven the two, because a trade representative has to do with trade going in and out of that port, and somehow mixed journalists in with it. Did Jeffrey Goldberg had anything to do with the trade or trade representatives, or the Atlantic magazine may have something to do with, they were working with knowledge of what was going in and out of that port, and somehow some low-level staffer took the chat chain for one and mixed it with the other, and it's sheer stupidity. Or you have a mole. One of the two things. I'd say on a chat chain like that, there is no way the kind of military information that they're claiming was passed on. I say Jeffrey Goldberg is completely lying. Either the staffer, or there's a mole that's leaking directly to him everything that was said in a SCIF, in an actual SCIF. And if they have, then the fact that Jeffrey Goldberg has this information and revealed anything about this to anyone, the public, for one, he's committed espionage. I'm sure he's going to say that, well, if you get me for espionage, you have to throw all of them in prison for espionage too, anyone who's on the chat, because they allowed an unsecure chat, this particular dialogue, to go through an unsecure chat. How did they get an actual, it's been verified, how did they get an actual chain, a real chat session? How did he get a hold of it? How was that even leaked? But there's no way on a text message, which signal is verified, it is okayed by the government to use for exchanges, for government use, for secure use, as long as you follow protocol, yes, you can use that. But no, there are no maps that go back and through on a text chain. There are no coordinates, strike zones. The way that type of information is passed, it is not through a text message. It is through a SCIF. And Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth, even though they keep repeating, the news organizations who hate Trump, the liberal ones who, I don't know what happened here. This went off. Let me make sure that this is plugged in, so I'm not working in the dark with you here. I'm not that much in the dark. Here we go. Let's see. Okay, that's interesting. All right, that went back on. Okay. So let me go back. They keep claiming that Pete Hegseth is a low-level military personnel. He was in and out of a few wars. No. He knows what he's talking about. He was on the level where he could have gotten blown up. He wasn't in a protected place. He wasn't far from the battle zone. As some commanders are, they're away from the game. He was actually in the game, and he went overseas several times. He knows what he's talking about, and he knows what a SCIF is. The SCIF that I was in, you had upper level and lower level people who worked on the ground, who were in the war at the time that were working the SCIF. So you don't have just upper level people working in a SCIF. You have different people at different levels working in a SCIF. So Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard know what a SCIF is. They know how to pass military intelligence back and forth. And if you're talking about particular strike zones, military operations, they know. There's just no way that they don't know. And there's no way that they would have done it over Chad, even if it was secure. There's just no way. Unless Gabbard, one of them is working for the other side. Pete Hegseth, they like to put him down because he had got a job at Fox News. If I was in the military for 20 years and I got out and I want to work as a civilian, and to be Secretary of Defense, you have to be a civilian. So him not being a general and upper level Army personnel is not unusual. He has to be a civilian. He has to work in a civilian capacity. So they're just really trying to put him down. I see him as somebody who really does know what he is doing, and he does know enough, and he does know how to pass secure information. No, Trump, the first time he was in office, such a thing never happened. So he's fully aware. Anyone he would hire to do or point to these positions are fully aware. It should be, I'd like to say Congress, but I don't have a very high level of a lot of people working in Congress, but neither does anyone in the United. I think they have a 6% approval rating. I would say a lot of them, some of the things that they've said might not understand what a SCIF is and how to pass on military intelligence. So they're going to everybody's going to get on the floor and scream and yell about how incompetent the Trump administration is. When we look at the past administrations and how incredibly incompetent they were, they couldn't even manage a FEMA operation. They couldn't keep the money in FEMA for the American people. This is what it was for, where people died of exposure in the United States of America. And also the people of Maui still have no home. They put gravel over their home. The level of incompetence of the past administrations is incalculable, that they could possibly say that this guy who supposedly hasn't released everything. Now, if he has everything and he has military secret information, classified information, I suspect a mole or incompetence. He has somebody working on the inside that is passing him information. Now, the operation was successful, and this is after the operation happened. But I think very keenly that the Democrats are looking, because Trump has been kind of bombarding the deep state at such a fast pace. And the last time he went in, the first thing that happened was the was the Russia collusion hoax, which was the Steele dossier was paid for by Hillary Clinton through the Perkins Coie law firm, her law firm. And she used that as a cutout. So basically laundering the money. And Christopher Steele, which is MI6, working for London, went through to create this dossier, to create this whole fake Russia narrative because she lost the election. They got that and a special prosecutor, Mr. Mueller, who turned out to be kind of on the same mental level as Joe Biden when he started to talk, which was really weird, who was running this show and how many millions of dollars. First it was 25 million, then 50 million. God only knows how much money the taxpayers paid for this hoax, that they've been looking for something, even the smallest thing. I agree that this needs to be investigated, but I do hope those that are investigating are going to be honest about it, are not trying to take Trump down. Now, the subject I talked about the other night, I'm going to be talking about on Thursday, because when I first heard about it, I was absolutely, it's as serious as it comes. It's as serious as it gets. I was extremely upset that night, and I probably shouldn't have gone on immediately. But I said, if I don't go on, I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be busy. I'm not going to be able to come on. And I realized that, I didn't like the way my voice sounded, so to speak. So I'd like to sum up and update some of the finer details of what it means, because it's a big thing. Either A, he knows what he's doing, or he doesn't really know what he's doing. There's a possibility that he does not know what it means to join the Commonwealth, what he has to do and what he has to give up. It's quite possible, because the glamour of, is it the gold and the jewels and and the mystique of royalty? It's possible, because not many people know about the oath, and that they think people don't realize the idea that because it changed, that the British citizens are no longer subjects, they're citizens. They don't realize that not everybody's a citizen. You still have subjects, except those are the people in charge. It's because most people don't know this fact. It's possible that he does not know this fact, because you have to know how other countries work from the top down. And we can give him the benefit of the doubt. Somebody was, I asked them a question, very, very, very big Trump supporter. And I asked them on chat, do you know about this? Has we talked about this? Someone who I dearly respect as a journalist. And they said, Trump is going to make, like Canada is going to be our 51st state, Trump is going to make the UK our 52nd state. And it's like, you may be blinded. You can't be so pro-Trump that you're not blinded at things that could be amiss. No, he's not owning the world. He's not, he still hasn't overcome the group over in Europe, that group that wants to take over the world. He hasn't owned them yet. They have not been taken down. And to think that this Canada thing is really going to happen, it's not really going to happen. And people are starting, like don't be so blinded that he's mastered everything, because there's a possibility that they are making him think that he has, that because they let him be president, that they think that he actually is in control and is actually changing things, when all they have to do is sit back and be quiet for 4 years, or just work in the shadow for 4 years. You think these are the most powerful people in the world. They own most of the world. You think one country can inspire the people to say, we're going to vote out our leaders if they're allowed to have an election. England is stopping their elections. They're stopping Easter too. The children can't celebrate Easter. I mean, this is huge what's going on over in Britain. Farage has turned, he's no longer right wing, he's no longer conservative. He's totally for bringing in new arrivals. He's completely flipped. Maybe it's because they took away his ability to bank. They took away, so he couldn't, remember that whole thing? They're oppressing him, and he could no longer have a bank account anywhere. Maybe that was fake. Or maybe they scared him the way what they did to Trump, they did to him. But it could also be fake, you know. I like to reserve the fact that we don't know. You know, all possibilities are out there. And there are people out there that are far more powerful than we are, than this country. No matter how big this country is and how powerful this country can be, we do not own the world. We're not as powerful as people think. There are other countries that have more money that we owe money to. We owe trillions to, because we keep borrowing. So we're not, Trump is not going to make the world the 51st, 52nd, 53rd, and so on and so forth state. And the whole world is going to be the United States of America. That's going way overboard. We have to step back and say, there's moles. I don't doubt that there's a mole. I don't doubt that they're working hard to make him look incompetent. Or I don't doubt that they're working hard to make him feel that he's more powerful than he is. That they let him win. They tried to take him down, and they did. They let him win. They let him get in. Sometimes you give people the false illusion of power, that they have more power than they have, and then you just let them run with it. And then people think, he's got it all. He's powerful. And then it only goes so far. Sometimes just the reign lasts for a few years, or they find something else on him, and this is their time to start whittling away to take him down. Remember that the Democrats are for the people over in Europe that want to take over the world. That's who they're in bed with. They're in bed with the most powerful people in the world. On both sides of the pond, we've got new arrivals coming in that are taking down our culture. So you have to say to yourself, who is the most powerful of the two? Who is the most powerful? Now, it's Trump and the people that support him is a very small group. The Democrats, as much as we think they're getting weak, they're aligned with the most powerful people in the world. We have to be aware that this is the truth. You know, that this fight is not won. And the illusion that he has more power than he does, that you make someone think that they've won. They really have won. And then they get the false sense of security. And then their power, sometimes you can go overboard, thinking that he can do things that he can't do. And then he hits the wall. You know, because they want him to hit the wall. Do you understand? They want him to hit the wall. We have to be realistic. We're not being realistic here. Now, the things that Doge is finding out, people are complaining about how Trump is running wild and he has security breaches and he's bringing down democracy. Well, Doge is finding the most ludicrous spending, and the money that is being spent that could have saved lives of people in this country from hurricanes and fires and freezing in the cold and the water in Flint, Michigan, and just the things that people need in this country to survive that we don't have, that is being wasted by the government. It's just recently been found out that the USAID was there was a cutout. Obama was sending money through that and laundering it to send to groups to America that would violently protest and burn things down. Remember when he was leaving office, he set up one of his 5 homes in Washington, D.C. He said, I'm not really leaving Washington. I'm going to be running things, and I'm going to be funneling money to groups all over the country that are going to bring this administration down so we can get back into office. So I think it's interesting, that little clip that I played about Chuck Schumer. Now, Chuck Schumer was almost taken down recently by his own party because he voted for the spending bill. So he's getting too friendly with Trump. So they're about to take him down. So he's got to get up on the floor and he's got to say all the right things, When in the past, they complain about the MAGA people being violent, and he gets on the bullhorn and saying that, that he's Kavanaugh is there's going to be fire and fury, and, he's going to reap the whirlwind, basically. And so there was somebody outside of Kavanaugh's house, Justice Kavanaugh's house, because of the whole Roe v. Wade thing, that wanted to annihilate his family. And nobody said anything about that. And we know about the whole crossing, that he warned Trump, and he says that if you cross the intelligence agencies, they have 6 ways of getting till Sunday to get back at you. So these are violent things to say, aren't they? Now, he said in that speech that I played earlier that I told you that these people like Pete Hegseth, who they keep referring to as a host at Fox, and a weekend host at Fox and Friends, that he has no military experience when he has 20 years of being on the ground, boots on the ground experience, military experience, far more than Chuck Schumer has ever had. These kinds of things happen when you have somebody in office that doesn't know what they're doing, that is not trained in any way. Well, I remember in 2004, a young junior senator had just been elected the junior senator of Illinois. And he got elected the junior senator of Illinois because his campaign, let's say just his campaign, whoever, did something very illegal to his opponent. His opponent, by law, you're not supposed to release the sensitive personal records of someone's divorce. And he knew there was dirt in the divorce records. And somehow he got those records leaked, which made his opponent look bad. So that's how Mr. BHO became the junior senator of Illinois. He was moved up very quickly and in a very illegal way. He was a community organizer. That was his only job, community organizer. He became editor of the Harvard Law Review without writing a damn thing. And he wrote in his bio that he was born in Kenya. And also when he wrote Dreams of My Father, he wrote in the press release that he was born in Kenya. Now, they say, well, that was a mistake. And he didn't he didn't read it. You're supposed to write your own bio. You're supposed to review these things before they go out. And if you don't do these sorts of things, what's a press release is only like this big, right? How can you be president of the United States? Is someone else running the country and you're not reviewing anything that's going on? So Mr. Chuck Schumer, Senator Chuck Schumer is like, this person doesn't sound very experienced. They've done nothing. As a senator, he voted present. He's supposed to be the decider in chief. So his resume is he wrote present 98% of the time, exactly 98% of the time on bills. Instead of deciding to pass the bill or not to pass the bill, he voted present, meaning that he decided not to participate in the vote at all, not to make a decision. And usually that means you don't know anything about what's going on. You haven't been there for when both sides are debating the issue on the floor. When you're sent the bill, you don't read it. You don't know anything about anything, so you cannot even make a decision. He voted present. In 2004, the Democrat National Convention, when Barack Obama made this fantastic speech off of a teleprompter, everybody couldn't stop. After that, everybody couldn't stop talking about it. But when he left the stage, Chuck Schumer himself said, "There goes the first African-American president." 2004, he knew that he was going to be president. Somehow, people knew that he was going to be president. Well, in 2008, Hillary Clinton was winning the election. But Barack Obama was so, Chuck Schumer, in the speech that I just played, you say, I warned you about people who are not qualified for the job, who are not fully trained, who are not up to the job. Doesn't sound like he was up to the job of being president of the United States, was he? But somehow he got elected in a very illegal way by having his opponents' divorce records or personal private information released, which made him look bad, so he won. A junior senator was elected president of the United States. A man who's never even read his bio for the Harvard Law Review, never wrote anything to have the qualifications to be the editor, other than he was the first African-American editor. Somehow he was like put into that position. Didn't read even his own bio that said he was born in Kenya. And so did Dreams of My Father's press release, which is only this long. Oh, I never read it, or it was a mistake. It was a mistake. These are just mistakes. These are just mistakes. It sounds to me like, and his qualification to be senator was that he was a community organizer. A community organizer who became a senator and voted present 98% of the time because he wasn't present during the debates on the House floor or on the floor to whether to pass this bill. He didn't read the bill. He had no idea, or he didn't care. That's the qualification that he had to be president. while his own campaign didn't make sure that he was on the ballot of Michigan and Florida, so he would get enough delegates to get him to the convention. If he gets enough delegates, or the most delegates, then he gets the nomination. They didn't even put him on the ballot. So the Democrat Party got together on television. I watched it. I was taking care of this elderly woman. I watched it with her. And and the debate was with Donna Brazile, was sitting at the table, and she said, well, my mama told me you got to do what's right when it's right. Okay. She's a beautiful looking woman. I admit that to this day. She's absolutely gorgeous. But I think she was trying to guilt everybody into voting for giving him the delegates that he would have gotten, that they believe he would have gotten had he been on the ballot. They just decided if he was on the ballot, he would have gotten X many votes to make sure he was president. Well, that was somebody who was definitely not qualified to be president. And while sitting with Trump, was assured, is he your friend? You were sitting with him at the at Jimmy Carter's funeral. It looks like you guys were friends. And he was sitting there laughing, being really cool, after everybody hated him after the election because he made all the African-American men feel terrible. Really put them down for how they were voting. So he schmoozes up to Trump, and you wonder, are they really friends behind the scene? Trump thinks that they're friends behind the scene. As it turns out that he's the one that funneled money from U.S. aid to fund all these riots that are protesting against Trump in this country. So that's not really a friend. And he was fake. That laughter was fake. I suppose also, like Gavin Newsom, that they're schmoozing with all these stupid conservatives, thinking that they're going on Newsom's show to speak, to get some common sense into Newsom. If you can talk the Democrats into realizing how stupid this whole carbon thing is, and how bad their policies are, it's like you're not going to. They know what they're doing. You think that they're stupid and you can reason with them. They're working for the other side that's trying to take over the world. You can't reason with them. This is the agenda. And they feel that if they're on their side, the side of the richest people of the world, most powerful people in the world, if you get on that bandwagon, when they take over the world, then you're going to have a sweet spot where they're lowering the population of the world and making everyone poor. You're not going to be poor. So you're the only thing these conservatives are doing is making him look legitimate, he's trying to get people who voted for Trump to vote for him. That's all this is for. And as smart as a lot of them are, that they can't see through this. Just, you can go on the show and just say, your policy has destroyed your state, and your policies will destroy this country. And these policies are destroying the world, not just people, the environment. You're killing the environment with these policies. You're destroying. You can go on and you can read them the Riot Act, but you don't schmooze and talk to these people. So this guy, so Schumer, that's a bunch of baloney, and because he was on the outs. They wanted him to retire. The Democrats were turning against him, so he has to get on and blow smoke on the Senate floor that he cares. They're going to hold, I'm sure it's going to be kind of like a Mueller investigation, this might start to grow and grow and grow. But notice that nobody's warning Trump about that other subject I talked about the other night, which I find very interesting. That you would think if the Democrats really want to take Trump down or something, and they scream about democracy, him destroying democracy, why aren't they saying anything about that? I think, personally, it's because they agree with this whole thing. Because that, they are the one, it's the same policies. That's the policies that they're pushing here. So if we join up with that, they've won. They have won. That's why they're not saying anything about it. They could clearly say he's really taking down democracy. But by doing that, they are cutting off their lifeline. You know, they're going against the policies that they're pushing, and they're not. They want this to happen. So in this case, I don't think Trump wants to look stupid, wants to look incompetent. I think, I truly think that Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard said that anyone who leaks information or mishandles classified information, yes, should go to jail, should lose their job, should go to jail. Unless there's a mole, somebody is a mole. But that particular Signal chat, that Signal app, that is secure. If it's done right, it is secure. They sell it. It's a part of the app. It says that if you follow these protocols, it is secure. So it could be incompetence or it could be a mole, one of the two things. That's why nobody on there said anything about saying, hey, why are we talking about this on this app? This isn't secure. That's the reason why everybody kept talking, because it is advertised as being secure. But everyone on the chat noticed that this GB, who supposedly was Jeff Goldberg, but they thought, I've got the name of the person, well, they thought that it actually might have been, it could possibly be, and it's not Jeff Goldberg. Somehow it was rerouted to him in some way. But everyone took note that this guy, whoever, if say if it was Jeff Goldberg, he left the chat awfully early. And by leaving the chat awfully early, he couldn't have known what was said. He might have known that the only thing he would have known is that they were talking about this particular situation. But it could be that he saw that he was on a chat he wasn't supposed to be on. If he gets this information and he is in possession of military intelligence, classified information, he could be charged with espionage. If you are a journalist and if you're in a position that is not, you've not been fully vetted, and you have been given the okay, the key, so to speak, to be in a SCIF or in a chat talking about military intelligence, if you're there at all, even if it's someone else's mistake, by law, you've broken the Espionage Act. You cannot be in possession of this information even by accident. You must leave immediately. This person left immediately. That's why this is far more complicated than we realize. So let's see. Signal is allowed. No idea. Mike Waltz says he's never met Jeff Goldberg. The thread is legit. They can guide government agency on how to use it without being hacked. There's a guarantee, they say, for end-to-end encryption. If you adopt these practices, it ensures security, but there's no guarantee. Nothing is ever guaranteed No, everything can be hacked. That's true. There is no 100% guarantee, but it is sold to the US government. It is supposed to be secure. It's nonsense to say he was using an app that wasn't, they were using an app that wasn't secure. They were not discussed. They were not, it had nothing to do with maps. They had there's no way they could have had known what the points, the strike zones were, the coordinates. There's no way. I mean, I know how to score, like I said earlier, that I know how a SCIF works. I've worked in a SCIF. I've been in and out of a SCIF. I've typed up documents for SCIFs. I made copies of classified documents. You know, I guess it is an honor to be trusted by military intelligence and the head of military intelligence. To do such a thing and know that I would never tell anyone any information or who was in and out of that SCIF, even after the fact. We're talking many, many years after the fact. I would not do it, even though, yeah, people go on Fox News and they talk about all sorts of things. But I won't drop. I'll just tell you like basics, like what types of information are talked about, which everyone probably should know. But there's no way that you would ever do that on a chat. It would be general things at most, and it's a secure app. Let's see. There is a rumor that Mike Waltz is on the chopping block. He has to be. Someone has to be on the chopping block for this. Either there's a mole, but if there's somebody that they cannot trust, they have to find who that person is. You don't just get rid of Mike Waltz because he might not be guilty of the person that entered the information, the people who were allowed to be on the chat. They said that he knew who Jeff Goldblum was, but he said he doesn't, not Jeff Goldblum, Jeff Goldberg was. Jeff Goldblum, you could trust him. The amazing work he did in Jurassic Park, of course you can trust him. But Jeff Goldberg is enemy number one as far as Trump is concerned, because he was involved with those 3 completely fake hoaxes. The 3 Russia, fine people on both sides hoax, and the losers and suckers hoax, which we know that all 3 of them were lies. And they peddled those lies. Even Ben Shapiro kept repeating the fine people on both sides hoax. And if you want to blame somebody for Trump losing in 2020, I say it's more than the rules change. Look no further than the conservatives, somebody who's in the news. You can't, either he's ignorant of what Trump really said, and he repeated it twice because they were still saying that he said it, so he said it again. He repeated his speech. Either he's ignorant, someone being in the news and on top of the news and telling everyone what Trump was thinking and that he wasn't playing 5D chess and blah, blah, blah. Either you're not playing 5D chess yourself and you're making us believe that you're playing 5D chess, Mr. Shapiro, or you were not telling the truth. There was only 2 things. And if one of the reasons why Trump lost in 2020 are lies. Or you were completely ignorant. Hard for me to believe, because Michael Knowles and Andrew Klavan were getting on the Daily Wire every day and telling us that the fine people on both sides things was a lie. He did not say that. He condemned the neo-ends, and I don't know what, I want to be careful about what words I say. New ends and the white supremacists condemn them entirely. So it's very, unless Shapiro doesn't listen to their shows, he only listens to mainstream media, and mainstream media cut off the part of the speech that Trump. So that's why everybody believed it, because they cut off the beginning of the speech. And he only heard the rest, and that's where Ben Shapiro gets his information from. That's the only thing I can think of. But then at the end, he said he finally admitted that wasn't true. He didn't say find people on both sides. That thing was a lie. He finally admitted it, but it was too late, Mr. Shapiro. It was too late. And you're the most intelligent person in the whole world. And I said, oh my God. I mean, the people right on your network. And I like, how did you get as far as you did? I'm sure you're smarter than I am. Everybody's smarter than I am. I'm sure you have much more energy than I do. I'm exhausted. All this stuff makes me exhausted. Okay. Okay. All right. So thought this is an authentic chain. Oh, the speculation was that it was Jameson Greer, the JG. You see, there's a number and then there's initials of everybody that's on the chain. It might be a good idea to have those changed and not have initials, that every single person on the chain. Hello there, back, Samurai. How are you? God bless you. Thank you for popping in tonight. I would think that on a chain like that, see, in a SCIF, you have to be present. You have in a SCIF, you announce who you are, and you have a code. Everyone has a code identifying that identifies who they are, and they would not know that unless they were given it to them by the head of military intelligence, and you only get that code from them. There's just no way. There's no way. So these people, I guess, on this chain, it was initials and their phone number or something like it. Everyone on a chat like this, it should be their full name, and the code that everyone on the chain should be able to identify a code, not their phone number. It should be a code that's the person who is the head of the chain knows the code, and you can only get the code. And like maybe there should be two-step verification, like the two-step verification, when you need to get in and out of Facebook, or maybe four-step verification. Maybe you should talk to what's his face. We thought he was an android until he looked at Amazon's girlfriend's boobs. What's his name? Zuckerberg. I mean, it's very hard for me to be. So it could have been Jameson. It was supposed to be Jameson Greer, but I find it very suspicious that this JG person left very quickly, which means he exited the chat immediately because he knew legally he was not supposed. If it was Jeffrey Goldberg, he knew he wasn't supposed to be on the chat. And just to be on the chat, you see, Trump has to get ahead of this. You see, if he says that Jeffrey Goldberg is going to be arrested for espionage because he should have never been on the chat, and he knows he shouldn't have been on the chat, he should go to jail. Then he'll say that everybody on the chat is supposed to go to jail for espionage because he's not supposed to be on the chat. Well, the initials are JG. And if other people think that it was Jameson Greer on the chat, you see, there's no way. You see, if they think that it's actually somebody else, JG, and they're supposed to be on the chat, and they are qualified to be on the chat, you can see where nobody's, speculation wasn't say, oh, what the heck is going on here? Who's this JG? They said, oh, that's Jameson Greer. See, if they think it's somebody else, and it's actually supposed to be Jameson Greer, and somehow the number identifying him was mixed up, with Jeffrey Goldberg. Could be the Atlantic, the list of journalists that communicate with the White House. Somehow his number got mixed up on this particular chat chain. But to me, you would have to be extremely ignorant. Yes, somebody low level that's really made a stupid mistake, or somebody who has always been from the other side. And what you do is you just get hired exclusively through MAGA organizations. So you look like you're 100% MAGA, but nobody really knows because you have never given to Act Blue. So you don't have a record of any kind of being associated with the Democrat Party, right? You like never switch. Or I switched sides. I was, what's that thing about just the walk away movement? You know, I walked away and I'm totally MAGA now. It could have been something like that, but they never really walked away. You know what I mean? Something like that is very easy to happen. And we know it happened during Trump's first administration. There was 76% of them were leaking information. So if one person, if he has one person, and very easily one person could be a mole. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that if he, I would think that there would be at least 20. But if he has one person, so what else did I write here? Okay, everyone on the chat received notification that he left. So everyone was notified that he left, and everybody was taken back by it. So that means he realized that he was not supposed to be on there. He got on there. It could be that somebody let him on there, a mole. And then he realized he was on there. See, Obama prosecuted more journalists for espionage than anyone else. He had journalists terrified that he realized that even though it is Trump and he wants to take him down, Trump could say, yeah, I'm a madman. I'm going to throw everybody in jail, everybody on the chat in jail. I'm going to hire everybody new, and you're going to go to jail with him. Trump could do that. Now, he might even do that. And that could be the reason why he left the chat so quickly, thinking that I can't guarantee that he's not going to try me for espionage and everyone else. You know, it's if everyone's guilty, then everyone's guilty. You know, he could certainly do that. So, yeah, I find that very suspicious that he left right away because he knew what he was doing. So first thing I thought of when I heard about this, and I'm going, you know, if he's a journalist and he got classified information, he should go to jail. I mean, that's against the law. I already knew that was against the law. I even Googled it just to make sure that the law hadn't changed in some way, that, if a journalist accidentally, you know, they change laws all the time. Do you know that they changed during that fatal day 4 years ago? You might not realize this. In the 18th century, was at the end of the 17th century, there was a law passed called the Faith in Elections Act, that people, if the majority of the people, at least 75% of the people, believed that the elections were not, what do you call it? There was something amiss with the elections. They didn't have faith in them. Instead of the vice president, rather than certifying the electorates on that day, there would be 5 justices from the Supreme Court would be picked, 5 senators, and 5 congresspeople would be picked. And they would, so it would be 15 people from our government for 10 days only, would investigate to see if there was anything funny that went on. Only for 10 days. If within that 10 days they didn't find anything, then the election would be certified. So that law was in effect. So what Trump had asked for was legal. He didn't try to put in fake electors. He didn't. There's always alternative electors, always, just in case the electors something happens. There's always an alternative set of electors. A lot of people don't know how things work, and so they hear from the mainstream media and Congress and we or whoever, the people above us, all sorts of things. And because we don't know how things work and we don't know the truth, what the rules are, we are easily swayed that there's something funny going on. Somebody's doing something that no one has ever done before. But alternative slave electors is actually normal. So not that you use them if it's not to go against the vote of the people. It's alternative slave electors to ensure the vote of the people, to ensure the vote of the people. May I emphasize that? But no, that isn't what Trump wanted to do. He just wanted Pence to simply put together, because there was enough people saying, and there's enough things that went on, like the laws were being changed, mail-in, that's just to allow that. A lot of stuff and a lot of lies. And as we know about the Hunter Biden laptop, that 53 people of high authority had said that it was Russian disinformation. We found out that was also a lie. Just too many lies, too many things went out. And that would have swayed the percentage they polled, and they found out that enough people who answered the poll said that if they realized that it was real, they would have voted differently. So that one thing alone swayed the election in a different direction. I mean, there's a lot of things went on. I'm not talking about anything illegal that went on, except basically you could just say the lies alone. So that's what Trump wanted to do, because it was a law. And after that happened, after that fatal day happened, the worst day in human history happened, Congress, they passed a law that said that you can no longer do that. You can no longer hold up an election. You cannot do the 10-day. It was just a 10-day investigation. And it would consist of 5 from the Senate, 5 from the Congress, and 5 Supreme Court justices. And within 10 days' time, if nobody found anything amiss, 10 days is a very short period of time, they would just certify the election. That's really all he asked Pence to do, which means you're just holding up the election for 10 days. And what it would have done was people who are upset about the outcome of an election, if they really believe that a lot of things went on that were whatever, whether it's true or not, it doesn't matter. People feel like, okay, my voice was heard. They did something was done. They gave everybody a 10-day cooling off period, so to speak. And that's basically all that would have happened. People would have had a 10-day cooling off period, and then they would have certified the election. That's really all that is to kind of quell the tensions in the country if people are really upset, and it's going to disturb the peace of the nation. 10 days cooling off, we're going to look at this, and then we'll certify the election. Basically, that's it. So let's see. Commerce goes through the strike zone. Another interesting thing is that he made those strikes in Yemen. This whole thing is about those strikes, because the Houthis were holding up commerce, and I believe there was oil. If there's oil being held up, or there's a chance that something's going to get blown up, in the it's really interesting. The first Gulf War, most people don't know this. The first Gulf War, it was a lie why we got into it. The reason that they gave the public, because I don't think the public would have okayed the war. Why we got into it, they said that the little girl, the 14-year-old girl who happened to be the daughter of some kind of high official, said that the Iraqis were going in and taking babies out of incubators and throwing them on the ground. And that turned out to be totally fake. But the truth is more interesting. I think the people might not have okayed the war, even though legally he could have called that war. I think there would have been enough people in the streets protesting to stop that war. In the 1950s, and it would have been Eisenhower that signed this, the world runs on petroleum. That if the petroleum, nobody could fly anywhere, food could not get to Africa and needy countries, we might not get food. Food within our country would stop. If our petroleum reserves, if anywhere in the world, the oil is threatened and can't pass either to our country or to any other country, if it's held up, and then a country can stop, there's no electricity, there's nobody you can't get to the hospital. I mean, there's down to minutia, because electricity is made from fossil fuels. Everything stops. So even if it's not America, an entire nation can stop. So there was the threat that Iraq took over Kuwait, which is that's a big oil reserve right there. That was being threatened. And that could stop, even if it's not our country, it could stop anybody, any country could go back into the dark ages very, very quickly without that oil. People can die if they can't get somewhere, if they're freezing to death, if the food can't get to them, if they can't get to the hospital, if ships can't cross, if ships need oil to cross the oceans, to bring necessary supplies, all sorts of things. A law was passed that if any oil reserve in the world is threatened, then we go to war to open that back up again. So if this particular port, the Houthis were stopping, Yemen was stopping oil, even if it's 3%, even if it's a tiny amount, if they're stopping oil from getting anywhere in the world, then that's reason to strike. So George H.W. Bush, and it was H.W. that did the 100-day Gulf War, and he stopped it in 100 days and didn't kill Saddam Hussein. He didn't need to make up that lie, have that little girl saying you have to go in there. The Iraqis are throwing the babies, taking out the incubators and throwing them on the floor. He could have just said, this is the law. Most people, because at that time, Democrats were against war, and they would have protested all over the country. They would have been totally against this war. They had to pull at people's heartstrings to let that war go ahead. But legally, by law, he did have a right to do that war. Most people don't know about this little law that was passed, but there's a reason for it, because you can stop an entire nation if you cut off energy supply. Remember, Kissinger said that if you control the food, you control the people, If you control the money, you control the nation. If you control the energy, you control the world. He said that a long, long time ago. Remember, he belongs to that group that wants to run the world. You control the energy, you control the world. The food, the money, and the energy. They're controlling the food. They're controlling the people, aren't they? They're cutting that off. The egg supply, it's still being threatened, by the way. Check out what's happening in Pennsylvania. You see that you control the energy, control the world. And that's the reason why. If you control oil and stop oil, you can stop the whole freaking world. And so that's the law. Most people don't know that. I happen to know that because I worked in military. I know you're looking at me saying, how could that possibly be? Look at you. Like I told you, I had no idea what I was being hired for. They just hired me at the law office and they checked to see if they could trust me. And I had enough of a resume of family members and friends and people connected to me who worked in the government on both sides of the Atlantic, upper places, that they could verify, they could trust my honesty. And that's what they want more than all, more than anything, more than efficiency and intelligence. You have to have honesty first, and you have to be able to keep classified information. They have to know that they didn't have a mole, and they still, to this day, even though it was a long time ago and the war is over with, that particular event is over with, that they can still trust me, even though I'm probably not as intelligent as they would ever be, but I did the job. I was able to do the job and they could trust me. So there you go. So I know these little things. I had long discussions with the general I used to work for about the past and history and why certain things happened, and just stuff that most people don't know, what they think they know, but they don't know. It's interesting to have long talks with. He used to like to talk to me for some reason. We became friends and we used to have long discussions. Anyway, through the strike zone by Europe. See, Europe has 40% of goods coming through that area. But you see, if Trump is cozying up to Europe, to the king, so his interests are not just America's interests. It's becoming the needs of Europe as well. But I could see that it's politics is good. I mean, it's good for politics that you help your neighbors across the Atlantic if something is being threatened. Like you kind of throw them it's a nice, say, a good deed as far as politics go, to get along with everybody. That's also a possibility, even though we have less of an interest there. And J.D. Vance said on the chat, supposedly, that that's what they claim he said on the chat, that I wouldn't do this strike because if Trump is trying to show that he wants to have peace in the world, he wants to end the Ukraine war, he wants to end the war in Gaza, he doesn't want to start wars, it's best if he doesn't do this. But it could be that Trump is thinking, well, I'm trying to get deals made with Canada and cozy up to the king. And so if I do these strikes, it's going to help Europe get the stuff that they need. And it's going to kind of, that's what the whole thing is. The job of the Secretary of State is basically the Department of Peace. Remember, Marianne Williams said, instead of the Department of War, we should have the Department of Peace, but that's what the Secretary of State does. So that's kind of, we do politics, we help. Of course, we found out recently the things that we're paying for all of the world that are supposed to help countries in dire situations. But things like this, these are like little things that you do that don't cost too much money and don't create a big war. It's a couple strikes that might help a situation, it might help another country. But instead, I guess the Democrats would rather pay for all transgender operations on mice and insects and things like that, which is a good thing. If anybody's listening, it's a good thing. I'm glad they did it. Really, I want to know that. Oh yeah, and also there's another. They experiment on the menstruation of trans women. The menstruation of trans women. That's another thing of what USAID has been paying for, which is a good thing. This is a good thing. I'd like to know the answer to that study, by the way. Anyway, so fast you're trying to. Okay, so that's it. So yeah, okay. So yeah, the two things I think it could be stupidity, could be incompetence of somebody, but it could be somebody who has gone up the chain that either convinced Trump or somebody that they're disillusioned with the Democrat Party and they're jumping ship and becoming MAGA. How many people have done that? How many people? There's a lot of people who have done that. That are we 100% sure that they really jump ship? That's the question I ask, and I think it's a good question to ask. How are we 100% sure on everybody who supposedly they said they jumped ship? And there's some people who've gone up the ranks who've never told anybody that they were a Democrat, have never given to Act Blue, never had a paper trail. They're just going up the ranks, and they are basically, they're people who are Democrat who, I should say anymore. I shouldn't say anymore. That these things happen. So it could be something like that. It's possible it's stupidity. I was thinking, how could something like that happen? Somebody copied and pasted somebody's name. But it's very interesting that he left the chat and everybody noticed that they were aware who's on the chat, and everybody must have thought that this JG was, what's his name? Jameson Greer. Everybody thought it was Jameson Greer. And when he left the chat, everybody noted that he left the chat, and they were very surprised, because if you're on a chat like this, you're supposed to participate in the chat. This isn't like, hello there, Ramama Productions. Hello, nice to see you. You're on there because you're supposed to be discussing it's an important meeting. There's important things that they're discussing. So it isn't like you're on a Zoom call and you're doing some kind of online meditation, online Reiki meditation. And you said, you know what, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm leaving the chat. Something like that, or I need a drink of water, and you're leaving the chat. I mean, that is these kinds of chats. Nobody leaves. So the fact that he left is that he knew. He said, I bet he said, I'm not supposed to be on this chat. I want to hear what's going on in this chat. Thank you, like and subscribe, everybody. Thank you so much. Loving you. It's you know what? It's a raspberry color. I've got a raspberry beret on. Anybody know that song, Raspberry Beret? By a certain prince who became the artist formerly known as Prince. Yeah, I was wearing a raspberry beret all day today. And it's so cold. I wore it out and I wore it in because it's still so cold in my house that I've got a sweater on, and I kept my beret on because I'm freezing. So I said, you know what? I realized what I want to put on. You're wearing a raspberry beret. Do you realize this? I didn't even realize this when I bought it. I go, I just like that color. And I go, damn, that's a raspberry beret. So I said, you know what? That's appropriate. We're talking about military intelligence, and the green berets, the military wears different groups in the military wear, special groups wear berets. And of course, one is the Green Beret. I love that song. It was my dog's favorite song. My dog Chocho's favorite song was Battle of the Green Beret. I used to sing it to him as a nursery rhyme. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to be a little military tonight, except it's going to be a woman's military. we all wear raspberry berets. See, you look good either way. I like it. Thank you. Red is a good color because I'm so pale. I'm so pale. Oh, red is a good color for me. I do. I see what you did there. Get jewelry that has roses on it and roses and raspberries. How about that? Um, and my tea mug has got roses on it. Can you see that? Roses. Kind of like 3D. Monster Chiller Horror Theater. Ooh. Anyway, so I'm just getting a little silly because it's the end of the discussion. But at the same time, you found out a lot about me that I'm not special. I'm not smart. They just trusted me. That's all. And I do remember some things. And I tried to get you some good information tonight on what's really going on. But yeah, I don't doubt it's a mole. I don't doubt it's somebody that said I'm a Trump's. I've walked away from the Democrat Party, and I jumped on the Trump train, and they really didn't. How many people really didn't? And they're just and they moved up, and Trump says, "Oh, great! You see, I moved." Yeah, he's got a big ego, and he gets a lot of pride in thinking that he actually got Democrats to move over to his side. So I wouldn't be surprised that sometimes you trust and you don't. Did they really? You don't ask the question. Did they really jump ship? Can you really trust these people? You really people have to, like with me, they had to be in that SCIF, to work in that SCIF. They have to go through your history of everyone in your family. Should anyone have been a criminal, somehow done anything illegal in any way? At least that's the old days. That's the old ways. That's the way they used to work it. Can we trust this person? Because I'd never done any work like this before. Well, this is her history. This is my history, but this is the history of my family. Is there somebody that, for example, if you could have somebody in your family who's a criminal, who could take, let's say I said something to somebody, they could take that information and run with it, right? Though I never said anything to anybody. I was I kept my lips closed on what was going on and everything that happened, everything that I knew. So, I mean, in any event, I don't think you should talk about anything, whether you can trust your family members or not, but they check me out from top to bottom. Not that way, but just you know what I mean. Anyway, so that's what I know, and if I know any more, I'll let you know. And Thursday we'll talk about that other matter. And I thought I would kind of make it a little clearer, a little calmer. It's frightening. It's very frightening. It's very, very bad. It's very, very bad. The other subjects, I talked about it the other night, but I was very upset about it. It was very late. Last night I was going to come on late and talk about this, but I said, you're really tired and you want to be clear and focused. Just give yourself a little time to get your head together and just don't do what you did the other night just because you're really upset. A lot of good information came out, but I didn't like the vocal register I was in, if you know what I mean, because I was upset. But the information was right and good. But I want to make it concise. Anyway, God bless you. I see what you did there. That gimmick. Remember when they tried to bring 3D back? I remember that. I remember that in the theaters. Yeah, and you had to, and they also you could buy the DVD in 3D, but in the theaters, they gave you the glasses, and on the way out, you put them back in a bin. They recycled them. Of course, they would never ever done that after, when the plague came around, because that would be like They'd have to really sanitize those or basically melt them down. I belong to neither party. I'm a registered. Me too. Me too. I don't belong to either party either. I I like to vote for the person. I don't. You know what I mean? I just like to vote for the person. But I'm sure if you can trust anybody, if you get into power, you have to have a lot of money behind you, and to get the money behind you, then you end up owing favors to the person who is supporting you. So it's really hard to say, yeah, I vote for them. It's really hard. That's why we have to do a lot of praying, and God steers the ship. And um, should Pope Francis go to meet the Lord soon, we pray that he comes out and he tells people to make it very, very, very clear that he wants the church to change back to the way of Jesus Christ, what Jesus Christ wants for the church, not the big changes and the things that have happened. He has to make that known. He can't make that personally. He has to make that known to the public. To ensure that the person who comes after him steers the ship back in the direction, in the way, the truth, and the life of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Was an old expression that said, are you sure about that? Or are you, whatever, are you a member of the police department? Whatever it was, to ensure that you were absolutely sure or telling the truth, or you're tried and true, whatever you belong to. The expression back was, is the Pope Catholic? And I ask, is the Pope Catholic? Is the Pope Christian? I don't know. I am not sure. I'm really not sure. Or he's very, very, very confused. He's very, very confused. So we pray that he comes out and says, well, he comes out, but he comes out and says, announces that the church has to go back in the direction, in the way, the truth, and the life of the Lord Jesus Christ. And then person who takes up his seat, his holy seat, steers it back. That's what he wants. And that the cardinals vote for the right person. And we have to pray for that. And we have to pray for this country. And we have to pray for the world, because it's only God and the good of mankind, the good of humankind. I'm still saying mankind, good of humankind. Of course, as Trudeau would say, people kind, people kind of humankind. The good of humanity that is going to steer the world back in the good direction, and the strength of the Holy Spirit and God. That's the miracle that's going to help us all and set us free and ensure our future here on earth and in heaven. So God bless you, and thank you for joining me. And I'll see you again very soon, and we'll discuss non-hysterically what's going on. Much more smooth. I believe Thursday I have that scheduled. And then Friday I have the rosary for that little boy, DJ Daniels, who still has cancer, by the way. He's not going to live very long. So the rosary is for him. It's a little bit of his story. I'm going to make it short, by the way. It's not going to be 2 hours. About his story. And the rosary is, we're going to have a prayer service before the rosary, should you not want to stay for the rosary. Some scripture readings, prayer service for everyone who has cancer. People, this is a prayer service and rosary for people who are suffering from cancer that you personally. So it's good. It's good for everyone. So it's to help everyone, not just DJ Daniels, but everyone who is touched by or suffering with cancer. And like I said, you can just stay for the prayer service, and the rosary will be at the very end. So you don't have to stay for that. Okay, God bless you and good night. And thank you for joining me and my Raspberry Beret. Okay, good night. God bless you. Goodbye.